painful. The best way for me to describe it, and I was having a back labor, is somebody grabbing like an ice pick and a hammer and just like going into like your back with it. Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since I've picked up the vlog camera. It is now my goal, hopefully, and I don't want to make any promises, but I really do want to grow this channel more. So I'm probably going to take a day off of filming during the week for my other channels and dedicate that day to filming for this channel. So hopefully I will be able to keep up with that, but we will see. If you are not on any of my other channels, or you followed kind of my part of my journey on this channel, I have a 1-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. I almost said 2.5-month-old. I had my daughter, and we're gonna kind of just get into the birth story. That was something that I really wanted to share, but it's way too long for me to put on any of my other channels. So I talk a lot. So I'm gonna apologize if you're like, get on with it. I'm just a yapper. We welcomed Isabella into this world on October 13th. Her due date was Halloween, which is ironic because my son is a 4th of July baby and she was Halloween. He was close to mine and my husband's wedding anniversary, and Halloween is actually our engagement anniversary. So just a fun little, we're really good with holidays. But let's get into the whole thing. So I guess I will start off with, if you have not been on any of my other channels or you kind of have been following my journey, I had a high-risk pregnancy towards the end. I was diagnosed with cholestasis. I don't know how to pronounce it. Could be completely wrong. But it is an uncontrollable, like, itching all over your body. Normally it's just the palms of your hands and your feet, but mine was literally everywhere. And depending on where your levels are, I mean, if your levels are over a 6 in general, 6.8, I believe, it is just a dangerous thing to have, just because there's so much uncertainty. A normal level of 6 is a 6.8. Mine was a 48 when I got tested. I was induced at 37 weeks and 2 days. I could be wrong. The entire process was very stressful. I actually did have to advocate to get induced at 37 weeks, which is the week I should have been induced, but there was talks of getting me induced at 39 weeks, and I was just not comfortable with that, because I'm pretty sure with cholestasis, if I'm pronouncing wrong, I'm sorry, there is a risk for stillbirth and just really like high complications. And I am super thankful that I was induced, because she did have complications. Yeah, I was high risk. I was doing NST tests twice a week, blood work every week for like 3 weeks, which isn't a long time. I was on medication. I was scheduled to be induced at 9 p.m., which is so weird that it's 9 p.m. I was kind of hoping it would be like early in the morning, but they do that because if you are not dilated and they need to dilate you, that you have the entire night to kind of just relax and get yourself dilated before they start Pitocin and anything. And I wish that was not the case for me. Absolutely wish it was not the case. So I went in at 9 p.m. I was 1.5 centimeters dilated, so I was not dilated at all. So they were gonna start me on Cervidil. My cervical checks were super uncomfortable, and I've had, like, obviously I've had cervical checks done before, and they were never as painful as the first one that I had. My nurse had to bring somebody else in to actually check my cervix. So it was really uncomfortable. Even my husband was like sitting there and was like, oh my gosh, like that just looks horrible. Because if you have tiny hands, you're not gonna be able to get very far, especially with me. Like, my cervix is very far. So TMI, but so yeah, that was uncomfortable, just kind of starting that. And then when I got my IV done, I tend to pass out with IVs. I always have. I found that out when I got my appendix removed in 2019. And then when I was in labor with my son, I was also induced with him. I passed out when they did my IV because they had to redo it 3 times. And I passed out, I think, each time. And so I almost passed out with this one. I was feeling myself like starting to go out, but she did it very quickly. So that was good. But then I had the nurse come in and she started my Cervidil. If you don't know what that is, it's like a little pill with a string on there, and it stays inside for 12 hours to help you like dilate, soften, things like that. I kid you not. It can kickstart your labor. Sometimes some people go into labor just on that, and that's what I was hoping was going to happen with me. Did not. And it can start your contractions. So it started my contractions. I was starting to get contractions consistently. I could not get an epidural because I was not in labor. I was not in active labor. I wasn't anywhere near where I would be able to get the epidural. They were able to give me like a very tiny dose of fentanyl, and it only lasts like 30 minutes. And after the third dose, they were like, it doesn't work. So I went 12 hours of probably the worst pain I have ever experienced. I wanted to go natural my entire labor. Absolutely not. If you've done natural, God bless you, all power to you, because I don't know how you did it. I quite literally wanted to, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but as my contractions started to pick up, I was having contractions 2 to 4 minutes apart, and it was probably the worst pain I had experienced. I was quite, like, those videos you see of, like, women, like, holding onto the bed, screaming in pain, that was me for, I want to say, maybe, like, 8 to 10 hours without pain medication. Like, I would try to get up and move, and then the baby monitor, the wireless one, wasn't picking up her heart rate and stuff like that, so I ended up having to be hooked up to the monitor and like stay in bed, and it was so uncomfortable, the contractions. So the best way for me to describe it, and I was having a back labor, is somebody grabbing like an ice pick and a hammer and just like going into like your back with it. That is probably the best way I could explain it, into your spine. It was absolutely horrible. My husband felt so bad because I was just laying there every few minutes just grabbing on in pain. Even my nurse, like, you could see it on her face, like, felt so bad because there's not much they could have given me because I was not in labor. So I got that done at 11 p.m. and I wish I could have slept. I tried so hard to sleep. Like, I stressed my body out towards the end to the point where, like, my calf muscles were so sore. They actually brought in, like, it was almost like a massage thing to help, like, compress my legs. They were so sore. Like, I extended my legs so much. I will say one thing that kind of helped, and this is probably the one thing, like, I will recommend anyone to take. I brought my massage gun. And whenever I was having a contraction, when I could stand up, I had my husband on my back with the massage gun, and it didn't take the pain away, but it did kind of like ease it, like shaking like my body, if that makes sense. So I had that. Sorry, I tend to do a lot when I'm talking. So I had that, and then that was just horrible. It was quite horrible. So while also that was going on, when I was asking for the pain medication, only so much can like go through. When she was trying to put in the pain medications and flush it, I kid you not, it felt like my vein was about to explode. It hurt so bad that I was like crying and screaming, not just from the cervical pain, but from that pain, to the point like my husband was getting ready to fire my nurse because it was just so bad. And I think she tried like 3 times, and I was just like, stop, like it hurts so much. Like, they were trying to like do the saline flush, and it wouldn't. Literally, I could still feel the pain like now. It was absolutely horrible. I have really bad experiences with IVs. I can never have a good experience. I actually left the hospital with my son completely bruised. I will see if I can upload those photos from it. I did leave the hospital bruised with her as well. But so on top of the Cervidil, that was going on. They ended up bringing in another nurse, I think during the shift change. No, that was wrong, because shift change at 7 a.m. I don't know. But they ended up bringing in another nurse to move my IV. She ended up moving it up here, and world of a difference. It was painless. It was like just so much better. I think it was, I don't know, it was somewhere here, but thank God she moved it, because I could not describe the pain that I felt. Like, if you think of like those like really skinny water balloons, like the really thin ones, and like you fill it up with air and there's like a little bubble that's like trying to expand, that's literally what I thought was going on in there, and it was gonna pop. It was horrible. So then that happened. 11 a.m. comes around. I am in excruciating pain from the contractions and everything, and I was just hoping I was dilating. And she came in, ended up taking out the Cervidil and checking me, and I was only 4 centimeters dilated, which was honestly so heartbreaking to hear all that pain that I was going through, and I only made it to 4 centimeters. But I was able to get the epidural, and I was not going to get the epidural because of my experience with my son. I felt the entire epidural. It was the only pain I remember from my labor with my son was getting the epidural, and I jumped when I got it, and I was getting yelled at. It was just a whole mess on that one, so that terrified me to get it again. But I could not, my body was ready to like just give up. I was in too much pain, and I was not going to go through Pitocin after all of that without getting something. This anesthesiologist was absolutely amazing. I felt nothing. I kid you not, it was probably the best experience I have had compared to my son with epidural, and it worked magically. With my son, like they definitely gave me too much, pain medication because I could not feel my body. I could not feel my legs. Like the nurses literally had to pull my body into the bed after because I couldn't move it. And even like 2 to 3 hours after I had him, I still was having like no feeling in my leg, which was terrifying. I did not feel him. I didn't feel anything with my son. I didn't feel him come out. I didn't feel the placenta. I didn't feel the tear. I felt nothing, which was great, but I didn't feel like I was in control of my body while I was in labor, if that makes sense. So I ended up with a bruised tailbone from, I think, pushing too hard also for like 3 months. I sat on a donut with my son. But with her, the epidural was great. The anesthesiologist was amazing. I felt so bad because I was literally like cussing because I was just like so relieved from everything the last like 12 hours that I was going through to just be able to like lay down. So I got the epidural around 12:30. They started Pitocin around 1. And with my son, when they started Pitocin, I dilated very quickly. I've only had 2 kids, so I don't really have enough to think. But in my head, I was kind of like, okay, I had a really quick labor with him. He was less than 10 hours or 8 hours, and he was out in 10 minutes. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just like progress faster with the Pitocin. So epidural, they started the Pitocin around like 1-ish, and I didn't feel anything. They were coming in, they're like, you're having a contraction. I was like, I don't feel anything. And then I remember like, it was like 4:30 or 4:38 or something, and my husband was like, oh, like, do you think I have time to go to the bathroom? And I was like, yeah. He walked into the bathroom, and I'm like pushing the call button. I'm like, nope. And when they tell you feel like you're gonna go to the bathroom when you're ready to push, that is the only way to explain it. And I'm like pushing it, and they're coming in. My husband's peeking out. He's like, I thought I had more time. I was like, I have no control over this. So they checked, and I was ready to push her out. So that was at 8:38 I started pushing, and she was born, 4:38 started pushing, and she was born at 4:41. Yeah, she was born at, I don't know, I started at 8:37 because I pushed for like 4 minutes. And she was born at 4:41, and I didn't feel anything. I didn't tear with her, but I had control of my body. Like, I was able to tell them, okay, I need to push. And I had the best experience this time around because they were all so nice. And the same person who delivered my son actually delivered my daughter. And none of them were pushing me to push when they wanted me to. It was kind of like, okay, are you ready? Like, when you're ready, like, and you feel like you need to push, let us know. They even asked if I wanted a mirror. I was like, absolutely not, no thank you. And they were just like so supportive. And I even had like nurses that were like, I had a nurse like come in and she was on her lunch break and she was like, I was waiting, like I was hoping you weren't gonna have the baby until I was off lunch. And yeah, my doctor broke my water, which it wasn't actually my doctor, she was the on-call doctor. She broke my water, and I kid you not, my husband told me it literally just like went everywhere. So my water was broken. She noted that she had meconium in the water. I don't know exactly what that term or how it looked or stuff, but before she came out, she noted that there was meconium. And then my daughter was born, they put her on me, and I think I had her on me for maybe 30 seconds, a minute before they took her off, and she did not cry coming out. They were trying to get her to cry. She was struggling to breathe on her own. So I had the NICU team in there because I was already getting induced at 37 weeks. I was a high risk. And yeah, I'm not actually sure fully like the extent to them being there, but I am so thankful they were there. They ended up taking her. Her oxygen level was low. It was out of 30. She ended up being on CPAP. And she had like meconium, and it was probably the scariest, like, I don't even know how long it was, but I was just laying there and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified because I'm looking at them trying to get her to cry, get her to start breathing, and I don't even know, like I was sitting there and I was just like, what is going on? Like, is she gonna be okay? And that is why I am super thankful I delivered at 37 weeks, because if there was already like this going on, like I would have been terrified to know what would have happened if I continued trying to go full term. And so she very much was, she was also cyanotic, which that was new to me. You could kind of tell because her nails were like bluish, like black, like, you know, lack of oxygen. And so that was that the entire time I was there. Like, her entry into the world was really like traumatic. On top of that first 12 hours, like I could not imagine if I was in pain. I'm sure she was uncomfortable and probably in pain. That's just in my head. Yeah, so she was super sleepy the first 24 hours. She probably ate once or twice. They said she was 6 pounds 7 ounces. The pediatrician at the hospital thinks that they weighed her wrong with everything that was already on the thing, because within 24 hours she dropped down to 5 pounds 11 ounces. I did end up having to give her some formula while we were in there. We ended up staying another night. They were checking her for jaundice. They checked her blood sugars every few hours to make sure that she was okay. We ended up leaving the hospital at 5 pounds 13 ounces, and it was just a whirlwind of an experience from the Cervidil to her coming out. I will say my own personal like labor was great. I was walking right after I had her. I did not feel the way that I felt with my son, and I think that had a lot to do with, one, the epidural, and I really did try to prep myself for this. Whereas my son, everything was so new, so I was just kind of going with the flow. But I was walking, I was not in pain, I was not uncomfortable. So it was just a whole experience. And yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely more I could go into. I have 3 minutes left on my camera, so I don't even know what else there would be to say, but it was a lot. Like, my pregnancy, I was throwing up until I was 22 weeks. I was uncomfortable. I gained 12 pounds my entire pregnancy. So it was an experience, and I did say I was done having kids after this, but to be honest, there's a part of me that's like, are you? I don't know. But she is a month old. We have had a rough 2.5 first week of life also. That's a whole nother story. We had a 911 call and everything, so, and just her gaining weight. It's been a whole whirlwind, but we are at a month. She is growing, she is gaining weight, and she's waking up more. Her wake windows are really good. She's only waking up once a night, knock on wood that I don't jinx myself, but yeah, I'm surviving with the toddler and a newborn, but I feel really good. I am super thankful that I am not where I was with my son here, and I'm able to be more present with both of my kids than I feel like if I had the experience I had with my son, I wouldn't be. But that is my labor story. I think I got it all. I hope I got it all. If not, I can always make another video, but I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Sorry, I'm a yapper, and hopefully we start growing this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed. Love you guys. Bye.